I'm almost done the after party, and then I can tell you about my day. It's still freaking me out that the Instagram button switched to the right side instead of the left side yesterday. Has anybody else noticed that? Does anybody else actually post in their stories? I don't know if I know anybody who both looks at this story and posts in stories. Maybe Lauren. Lauren, have you noticed the buttons on the other side? Anyways, so here's what happened. Well, here's what's happening right now. First of all, look at my eyes. They're so green. Green brings out the green. So what am I doing? Trying to decide whether I should eat right now, because it's like 11 o'clock, and I'm like, I could go for some puffed wheat. But if I just jumped into bed right now, I'd be asleep. Anyways, I'll tell you about my day quickly, and then we'll decide if I'm going to eat. Woke up at 7, kind of like, should I get up? But I'm like, my mom's going to take her art to the art show, and I want to help her. So finally, I decided, like, it was 9 o'clock, I guess, and I'm like, I just better get up. And then I think I went upstairs around 9:30, because I remember the alarm going off. And I heard my parents banging around. They were moving some stuff, because my mom had all her art and bins, and she was going to load up the car. But I got up, and my dad's sitting there, and I'm like, what's going on? He's like, I dropped off. What happened? Oh, no. They filled up the car, my mom's car, and there was no room for my dad, so she just drove herself. And I'm like, but I was going to help her, like, take it all in. He's like, well, she's gone. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to run over and help her. So I put on my running tights. Actually, no, I still had my sweatpants on, but I came down and I put on my running shirt and everything. And then my dad's like, it's bitterly cold. Do you want to borrow this hat? Because he was wearing, like, this Russian fur hat. And he's like, I needed that outside. I'm like, no, I'll be fine. So I jogged over, ran. And as I'm approaching Lansdowne Park, I'm like, that little red car looks like my mom's car. And I'm like, hello. I flag her down. So she drives me back. And then she tells my dad, okay, drive me over there. Actually, what was she doing? She didn't want to park her car there. But my dad's like, well, Josh could have driven the car back. She's like, well, I think she wanted to come back and get a better jacket or something so that she could walk back in the warmth. My dad's like, I can come pick you up. She's like, no, I'm going to walk. I know she likes walking. I like walking too. I feel like a superhero, just running and walking. Wish I had done that more. I mean, I've done it in my life, but I just wish I'd run every day. It's funny. My mom started running when she was 50, and she says, I wish I'd started earlier. Anyways. So then she went back, and I'm like, should I go back? Oh, they're already gone. Okay, so I just came downstairs, and I'm like, I guess I'll start going through emails. But there's this, actually in the car, I was listening to the PodFest convention in the car with her, and she's like, what are you listening to? I'm like, are you listening to a podcast? I'm like, no, it's this live webinar. And I think I basically just had these things on all day. I was trying to learn, and I realized some woman from one of the teachers I was messaging with last night on Instagram, and she's like, yeah, VidFest was on. I'm like, VidFest last week? What? Because that's why I went early to Orlando last year, because I love the YouTubing stuff, but their marketing just said pre-week, and then it was the main thing, and I'm like, that doesn't tell me it's VidFest, and I was so upset. So I didn't see and even this week, again, I think this happened in December, didn't it? I feel, and in the summer, like every time they do an event, it takes me a couple of days to go, should I log in? I don't know, it's just overwhelming. But I should just join in. Like, you just go and you can watch an hour, just because, you can log in for an hour, doesn't mean you have to watch everything for 8 hours. Like, that's not a reason to not look at anything. So I think I was watching some stuff yesterday and learning about Clubhouse, and then today I watched a lot, and they were talking about membership groups and everything, so it was all good. I was like, those are all really good ideas. But of course, I still got podcast interviews from going back years that I need to upload and stuff, so I need to balance all the learning with just doing it. I think Charles was saying, yeah, enough of the learning, just start posting your stuff. So, but it's a nice community. But anyways, what was I saying? Oh, well, then there was like a comedy section, and I'm like, I really want to listen to the comedy stuff. So I took the laptop off upstairs to listen to it while they were eating dinner. So that was kind of weird because I was trying to listen. And they were just sort of sitting there talking to themselves. But that was it. And then I just came downstairs and watched the rest of it. And then I joined the gratitude ceremony this time because they did that in person. Like this time, I was in Orlando at this time last year, and everybody goes up on stage, and I didn't do that. But I did it this time on webcam. I'm like, I'm going to do it, and I'm glad. And then I joined a little after party I was just showing you, and then that's it. So Now I got to actually start doing my podcast 'cause I learned so much. There's not, compared to YouTube channels and stuff, there's not a lot of podcasts. It's a very intimate relationship, and so yeah. I'm also going to start a Facebook group for my community. So if you want to join that, you can do that.